This episode of the Eclectic Gamers podcast is brought to you by the Empire and the Roanoke Pinball Museum in Roanoke, Virginia. The Roanoke Pinball Museum. It is an interactive museum more powerful than the Death Star itself. It is powered by science and history of pinball. Its mission is to cultivate curiosity in science, art, and imperial design. The museum is open every day except during Order 66 and Mondays. It houses over 65 machines with models ranging from 1932 to 2018. If you only knew the power of the Roanoke Pinball Museum, join me, and together we will explore the entire universe of pinball.
Welcome to the Eclectic Gamers podcast. Today is Sunday, February 9th.
Yeah.
And this is episode 108, not episode 107, as I'm looking at the wrong set of notes.
Oh, that would explain why you stalled on the date a little bit.
Because I was like,
I knew you wrote in the date already.
I did. I was looking at the wrong notes on my laptop, and I'm like, it's not January anymore.
No, we're free of that. We're in the good month now. Actually, we're in like the worst weather month normally for Kansas.
Yeah, I mean, is it really? Here's the happy thing.
Happy.
We're finally at the tail end of all of the federal holidays.
Yes.
So we get a break for a while because it feels like that I'm just keep falling behind.
Yeah. Do you get President's Day?
Yes.
Okay.
So
I don't think I do.
See, because we get 8 holidays. 5 of them are between November and February.
Yes.
Because we get Veterans Day, Thanksgiving, which is 2 days. Christmas, which is a day and a half. New Year's Day. Martin Luther King. Oh, and President's Day. So and then we just get the rest of the year is Memorial Day, Labor Day, and 4th of July.
Okay. Yeah, at least according to the calendar I updated online for people to know when I was closed, I'm not off again for holiday until Memorial Day. So I didn't think we took presidents. My last employer, we did not. We also did not take veterans, which I do here with my new employer. But that was because where I was, we took Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve, and we gave up 2 other holidays for it. And one was Veterans Day, and I think the other, we did take Martin Luther King Day, so it might have been Presidents that we gave up. And I'm guessing I'll recheck my notes, but I'm guessing we just don't do that one here. Presidents is always kind of a iffy one for people, so anyway.
My only annoyance is because at work we fall behind, and it takes us, because we have to, there's a certain amount of stuff we have to do every week to stay caught up. And when you get the extra days off and a bunch of them build up, you fall behind and fall behind and fall behind. We just this Friday caught up finally for what we've been behind since Thanksgiving. So
yeah, for me it's not so much if everyone's taking the holiday like Christmas, but if it's not the case, then I have other entities that are working on the day that I wasn't working. And then there's a catch up with that, or I have to plan around it. So, because so much of my life is meetings. Like last week, I think now my Office 365 gives me an analysis based off of my calendar. And it's like, you were in meetings for 25% of your work week. And I was like, yeah, it felt like it. And then another 25% was me driving to meetings. So,
wow.
So in reality, I had 20 hours to do everything else.
That's interesting because I get the exact same analytics, and mine's not quite as bad. Mine's like
most of my weeks don't read that aggressive.
Mine's like 10% in meetings, but I also have very high, like continuously busy in conversation with people.
Right.
stats.
Well, a lot of what I have that aren't meetings are responding to the emails for
Right.
information that I can handle outside, which I prefer because I can do that at whatever time period I can slot it in. Speaking of slotting items in, we had a game night last night.
Mm-hmm.
We played games.
We played some games.
I played Coup. And
I've played Coup in the past.
Yes, you already know all about Coups. I liked that, though. It was pretty easy to understand. Then there was that pun game.
That was terrible.
It was pretty awful. It wasn't hard enough.
Yeah, it was like, it seemed like it would be a really good game for like kids.
Children, like toddlers.
Yeah.
I mean, when I thought back on it, I think maybe out of the hole, we didn't even get all the way around the table before someone had scored 30 points. And I think there were only like 3 or 4 missed questions, and these cards that each had 6, and that was across all the cards.
Yeah.
They're just too easy. But it was,
and all
fun.
of the missed questions were picked up by the other team.
Yeah.
So,
but it was still fun. So
it was,
in terms of playing games.
it was fun in terms of playing games.
Yeah, I like to play
It's not
games.
a game that I would play.
And otherwise, update-wise, not a lot. I streamed Space Gambler online, obviously, because I said I streamed it on Twitch, because that's still at my house. Broke the mushroom bumper, one of them. The stem part broke.
Really?
Yeah, from a ball strike right at the end. So it just cracked, so I could see the spring under it. So got to get that replaced. They use Playmatic Games use the same mushrooms that Valley Games did. So
it's
not a problem.
It's not
a problem. There are a lot of used ones online, and you can buy new ones from the parts dealers. So that's not going to be hard to do. And other than that, I have not really played a lot of video games this week. I did a little bit of the beta for Phantasy Star Online 2. Last week, I continued to put in several more hours into Assassin's Creed Origins, though. I think I'm towards the quote-unquote end game-ish. Like, I think I know who the final bosses are now, but I'm still probably a few hours away from being able to fight them because I'm too low level.
Right. So I played Creeper World 3 some.
Creeper.
Which is basically kind of a tower defense-y type game.
Oh, okay.
But otherwise, I spent most of my time reading and watching movies and stuff.
Yeah, I mentioned working on a competitive pinball article, which I'm now, it's taking forever. It was a mistake to agree. I have finally finished putting in the relevant, like, manufacturer, year of build for all the games. I finished that yesterday. I have over 700. And so, yeah, some of them are repeats, so I could drag and drop the answers.
Right.
But I had to look up a lot because a lot of these people have to be unique. So we've got
unique butterflies.
Well, you've got location play, like Kansas hosts the SCS at the 403 Club, but in a number of states, private collectors host. So there's that. I think it'll end up being interesting. I'm going to launch that over actually to Pinball News. I think it will fit their Learn section. That'll be up to Martin, but I haven't published with them in over a year. So that's kind of where I'm leaning, where I think it'll find a good home. But I had a lot of feedback from people, which I really appreciate. So anyway, I'm not committing to a deadline other than I do hope to actually get it submitted to an editor for review before the end of February. If people were thinking...
So the deadline is the end of February. Thank you for giving us a hard deadline.
I don't know when I get... Most of the time when I give it, like if I give it to This Week in Pinball or Pinball News, it's usually, over a week before it'll be published, minimum.
Mm-hmm.
Just because they have their own release schedules and they need to do their review and everything. But since this was so public, people know I'm working on it. So I don't want to feel like I didn't make any progress, but February is very busy for me work-wise, and I can only put in a few hours at a time in a week to working on it. So I probably bit off more than I can chew. On retrospect, I wouldn't have wanted to do an article that required this much background research, but I am finally at the point that I can start writing it.
But remember, research once done, you still have all that information for other articles in the future.
I do, but I don't know what I could do with it. Unless I build up on it or something along those lines. So yeah. But I figured that would be an okay lead-in into our pinball segment, which we only have a couple of pinball news items to go through. And the first one I want to start with is Haggis Pinball. You know them. They've made Celts. We've not tried Celts yet.
Nope, haven't found it yet.
We've seen images of it. We've seen some video of it. We discussed it a few episodes ago, few episodes ago. I mean, I'm thinking more like
Let's go with several
episodes ago, before episode 100. We discussed it. And we received, as I'm sure many did, a press release. I'm not going to read the entire press release, but I will quote the relevant portion to lead us into this segment. We set about designing a new method for playfield manufacture. The result of that is a new hybrid playfield comprised of a layer of birch plywood, a layer of specially coated acrylic, and a digitally printed cast substrate that is chemically and mechanically bonded to create a pinball playfield that will not dimple and not pool. We have also run a physical pinball endurance test on our new playfield, and as of today, it has over 750,000 plays with no signs of wear. In the show notes, there is a link to a video that they have, which will be the now, I suppose, infamous hammer test that was often spoken of by Deep Root Pinball with Robert out of Deep Root. And so they hit this acrylic combined substrate mix birch playfield with a toy hammer, a smaller normal hammer, a regular normal hammer meaning claw hammer, and a sledgehammer. Now, they did not bash it like you're trying to break apart a sidewalk.
They didn't full power swing
but they hit it harder than a ball will hit it.
Yes.
And it looked good to me.
It did.
What were your thoughts? Because I know you saw the video.
I was pretty surprised. I thought it looked really good. I wasn't sure, and I haven't been sure from when Deep Root was talking about it, that how well something would pull off. And for Haggis to come out and drop this video before Deep Root's been able to do anything is huge. But it looked good. I mean, there was a decent drop from a large hammer, and there was nothing noticeable on that playfield.
Mm-hmm. And the way this approach looks as a playfield looks attractive to me.
Yeah.
I'm not a huge fan of the Celts artwork.
Right.
And I think I noted that back when we talked about
It's fine.
It's fine. It's not my style.
Right.
But the way that the playfield looked before and after, and just the way it looks assembled, it looks like a playfield to me. And so, I mean, the main thing I think to talk about at this point is this the game changer? Because here's the thing. We've not spoken a whole lot about Haggis before. I imagine most of the other commentators in pinball haven't, at least the ones I listen to have not. They mentioned it from time to time. There's a lot of respect for what Haggis is doing. I hear that it's seen as the people behind it are reputable. They've been really transparent. They were doing daily video logs of what was going on. Until recently, there was a lull of about 3 weeks where they weren't. But so it's been a different approach. Does this move them, this playfield, this solution, if it is as good as it appears to be, into the conversation? Are they like now a spooky? Are they a boutique that we need to talk about in the same breath with the quote unquote real manufacturers and not keep them confined to the realm of like Great Lakes Pinball or Pinball Brothers, people that are essentially all talk and have no real proof of progress?
No.
Or minimal proof of progress?
No. They have a process. It seems awesome. It looks good. They need another machine.
Oh, you mean something besides Celts?
Yeah.
Okay. So you want to see game number 2?
I want to see game number 2. I want to see proof of a little bit of staying power.
Okay. I think that's a fair
Because
ask.
if they have, I mean, in all honesty, if their method, whatever their method is, they've got everything set up right and their ducks in a row, they could turn around and license out their playfield method to any of the big playfield manufacturing setups and just call it good. They would never have to make a machine again.
Assuming they patented it.
Which
I don't know if they did or did not.
I think they should have.
Well, let me ask you this. Do you think this, what's already come out, has stolen the thunder from Deep Root?
Oh, for sure.
Because Deep Root's solution might not be the same solution.
It might not be the same solution, but it doesn't matter. This was first. The only way Deep Root could get something back is if they can do a full power slam. And there's nothing. They could hope, but it doesn't matter. This was still first.
I mostly agree with your perspective on that. I think the one thing that I want to talk about is the use of the material. If Deeproot has a method where you're still playing on a surface of wood, that might make some people feel more comfortable than the notion of the top surface here is acrylic. So what are your thoughts? Because I want to credit, it was Loser Kid Pinball podcast I was listening to just a few days ago. And one of them was talking about that they were very, I'm not going to use the right words, but essentially that they were leery, skeptical, because they are used to playing on a wood surface. And while you still have a wood play field, what will the ball's geometry, the physics, the spin, all of that, how will that be when you're essentially on an acrylic surface? Will it not be pinball anymore? Was sort of the angle of, not saying that it wouldn't be, but that was his question. For my part, I don't care. Maybe I shouldn't say it quite so flippantly, but I don't think it's an issue. Because, and they also discussed this on their podcast, but we have gone through decades of flipper pinball now, and what we've been actually rolling the ball on as a surface has varied quite a bit over that time. Yeah. I mean, the ball does not. In fact, that's one of the things where we get a Nick Shell versus a Nick Baldridge arguing over whether or not it's okay to clear coat with polyurethane EM games, because how the ball spins is different on polyurethane than it is on a simple lacquer. And the types of lacquer was not the same across all the pinball manufacturers. Look at, like I mentioned, streaming the Space Gambler from Playmatic. Whatever their lacquering coating approach was very different from the Americans, which is why the art looks so good on that game, because they did a different approach. There have been all sorts of surfaces that were used that were different. We've had plastic playfields before.
I know.
The biggest complaint about the plastic playfields that I've seen wasn't that the ball didn't play right on them. It was too expensive to keep doing it. So I don't think this is any different than, I mean, have you really been playing on wood ever since you've been playing on such thick polyurethanes? The polyurethanes that have become so thick, and thus why you see all this cratering and such now, because you're punching in on the clear, which used to not be a thick coat. One of the arguments I've heard. I don't know enough about clear coats to tell you one way or the other, but I think it's safe to say your ball hasn't touched wood for quite a while now on most of these games. Not really. You're on a rubbery surface. You're on a clear.
Right. And that's completely valid. And I think that's the truth. I don't think it. There are people in this hobby who will decry it, who will say that it's not pinball. But there's people in this hobby who say that about everything.
But I mean, we've had, I don't know if they're all acrylic, but I mean, like the lower playfield on Munsters, it's not wood that's letting us look under that. We're playing on some sort of plasticky window, right? And
but trust me, they'll find an excuse. Oh, but that's just the window. The main playfield is still blah 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 blah, because that's the way a certain type of person is. No matter how valid the fact that we're playing on clear and you're playing on plastic there, and how many of the upper playfields on games are normal playfields versus just having plastic, and how much it's not going to matter. To the average player. Sure. That's what I think. To the average normal player, to Joe Pinball and Jane Pinball, it's not going to matter.
Let's tell even the people listening who are fans of pinball. Let's be more direct, Tony. You all listening right now, you're not good enough to know the difference. That's what we're saying.
That's not what I'm saying at all.
That's what we're saying. That's what Tony and I are saying.
Dennis is saying.
Saying that, yes.
I'm not going to notice the difference because I'm terrible.
You're a highly experienced.
That's what you're saying.
A highly experienced.
I'm not going to notice the difference.
I'm saying.
I'm not going to notice the difference.
I'm willing to go out far enough to say that a ball rolling on acrylic versus rolling on polyurethane, and like how exactly the ball spin will be and the ability to either control it or not control it is going to be, well, it exists. I completely agree it exists on any different material. We are talking such subtleties that people are not going to be able to properly describe to you the difference. This difference, I think, is going to be less than whether or not you're playing on super bands versus Titans.
Oh, for sure.
And so
this is definitely going to be one of those things where the only people who can tell you that they can tell the difference are lying.
See, and that's the thing. There is a difference. But it's not. We're not playing on sandpaper, so I don't.
Right.
It's not. It shouldn't be that. We played on so many similar things to this before. Is why I'm saying it. Like
Right.
Electra, it had the whole middle play field. I don't know if it was acrylic, but it's something acrylic-esque. Is it smooth? Does it hold up? Okay. There will be some subtlety. Yeah, there'll be some differences. Yeah. Is it going to redefine pinball? It's not like you're all of a sudden playing on Mars and the gravity's different. This isn't The Expanse.
Not. You're right. You're exactly right.
That's the element. I'm. It's fair to be concerned, but I think we've already seen enough things like this in pinball that I am in no way worried. The biggest risk would have been things like the screen on Munsters or how like the covers were on Premier's Genesis or Bad Girls, where there might be a seam. But if this is the entire play field, then that's not an issue.
Right. So there's not going to be anything to catch it. There's not going to be, it's not going to be noticeable. You're going to see
because here's the thing. We've been dealing with this people aren't even thinking about how much, like all the, especially on older games, and how many different spots have Mylar, which actually changes the level.
Yeah.
But if Mylar's flat, it doesn't really make that notable of a difference. And this is going to be even less because it's all even. So that's
there's still going to be people who do not accept it.
Sure. Just like people who are mad about the pinball protectors. And they're like, well, it's not the same as playing. Well, no, it's not going to be identical to but other than where the seams are at, most of the people I've seen who play on pinball protectors say it feels like playing pinball.
Yeah.
On the only difference there is they have another game without a protector they can compare it to. But you won't have that here. That's why you won't know. You're not going to know. I mean, it's not that you're stupid. It's that that's how physics is. You're just not going to notice.
Yeah, when was the last time you talked to somebody who they're like, I can't stand this specific machine. It's been refinished. I can tell. Or, this is a late batch machine. This is after they changed the clear, the clears type. This is a new style clear compared to the early generation. The first 500 machines were on an old style clear, and the last 1,000 were on this new style clear. I can tell this is a new style.
Only in regards to quality. That's it.
Yeah.
Because that's been discussed a lot about, look, here's this cool System 11 game. Oh, well, is it a diamond plate game or is it not? Which meant, did it have polyurethane or did it not?
Right.
But it's been like, that's all about wear. It's not been, if it's not diamond plate, the ball doesn't spin right. Come on, guys.
I mean,
come on.
I'm not 100%. If I remember right, Knight Rider was a game with plastic playfield. If I remember right.
I have no idea.
At least I remember somebody telling me that. But I've played a fair amount of that game, and if that is a game with plastic playfield, it didn't shoot any different or seem any different than any other game. Let's see. Let's IPDB this.
Yeah, I'm already there. They had an EM and a solid state version, but the summary on the solid state version does not say that was the case. But I know that Premiere did a few, like Victory, I think was one of the Vitrograph. That's what it was. So Victory, which is an 1887 game that Premiere made. A lot of people may know it from the Pinball Arcade. I think it's a fun game. It was the first game where they used a Vitrograph. So it was a fully screened photorealistic Mylar overlay that they put on top of the playfield, rather than silk screening the wood. So you played on plastic Mylar. And I've heard some people complain about like dealing with posts and stuff and fixing some of the things on such games, but not about how the ball played on the game. So they did that. They did the same process on Diamond Lady, which I have played, and it played like any other Premiere. We played it at Texas Pinball Festival. TX Sector, it used the same approach.
Yeah.
Again, I don't hear people complain that the ball doesn't play right on that sort of plastic. So anyway, it's fair to ask. We took a little bit of a strong take for emphasis, but I think it's fair to wonder. But they're testing all of this. You saw the ball rolling in the little sample machine where it was doing that. What he had the 750,000, that little box. It's like, is the ball rolling back and forth like it rolls on a wood playfield? As near as I could tell, it seemed to roll like it. I mean, the thing is, we've done things like this before, just on parts of the playfield. So that's why I am not worried, and I don't think you'll really notice.
I don't think anybody,
especially if all the games are that way, then it would be more like, well, does Celts just not play anymore? And again, unless you're using a rough surface or something, I think you can get away with a lot of different materials, and they will have an impact on how things like ball spin and such happen. But you have to remember that pinball often is moving at a pretty high speed.
There were some plastic playfields in Knight Riders.
Do you know if you played one?
I don't know if I played one. I know somebody was telling me about them at TPF while I was playing a Knight Rider. I don't know if that was the one I played. Some of them have it. And apparently there were some speakeasies that had it.
Okay. I think I played one speakeasy.
But not all of them. It seems like it was apparently a test thing.
Yes. And that I do, if I recall, the issue that came up again had nothing to do with the play. It was the costs were not conducive to actually going and switching the process and doing plastic.
Right.
It was just too expensive. So now nowadays, maybe it wouldn't be. I don't know. But I mean, I'd say, my normal answer would be play it and find out for yourself whether or not you like how it plays or not. And whether or not you can identify, is it the material or is it you just don't like the layout of Celts? Because that's the thing. But I think that they will, by their own testing of it, have a pretty good sense as to whether or not it still plays like quote unquote real pinball. So I would give material differences a
pinball?
Pretty well. My reaction is let's give some experimentation on materials as long as they're smooth, the benefit of the doubt, and not just immediately go full snob on this and be like, oh, but it's not. They didn't use the right type of I've heard people debate about the right types of plywood that you use with the layering and stuff for pinball. I'm like, I'm not sure it really matters as much as you all think it matters.
Right.
Now, a fairer complaint that or concern that I believe I read somewhere was mechs. And since this is such a thinner piece of wood now, how much weight can it support before it would start to bow? And would that influence how many things they could do on a future game? That's an interesting question. I don't know, because I have no idea if you needed the full thickness of plywood to support what modern mechs are, because I don't think they're very heavy.
Is the acrylic that much weaker than wood?
Well, in their case, it was less of the concern of the acrylic layer and how thick it was, but rather that the wood layer underneath is so much thinner as well.
But what I'm saying is acrylic weaker than wood? Is it more apt to collapse under weight than wood?
And I don't know. I wouldn't think so normally. The bigger issue, which some people have asked about, and then these I think are the fair points to bring up, would be like, well, but what about you have to drill through acrylic? Will you crack the acrylic? But that's all part of the manufacturing process.
Right.
So once a thing is in there, I don't think you should have any problem unthreading a post and rethreading it back in any more than I have when I've put screws in through acrylic on toys or whatever. It's not been an issue. So yeah, I don't know. But anyway, I think it's neat. I
think it's awesome.
And I'm not worried about how it's going to play. So I think this was an excellent strategy. I think it was smart for Haggis to send out press releases. I think this puts them on the radar as being innovative in a hobby that is desperately looking for innovation, while also expressing constant concerns about all innovation. See the projector for Stranger Things, see putting screens in the playfield, see everything else. But nonetheless, pretty exciting. So, next item that we have for pinball is Rick and Morty. So, and I see my notes that I typed on the other computer didn't fully populate over here. I fixed the link, though. We do have a link in the show notes for people to see the sneak preview of gameplay. It's about 15 minutes long, as I recall, over on YouTube. So that's what I wanted to note about it, is we finally have seen some gameplay video. I don't know if you've had a chance, Tony, to see any of the gameplay video.
I haven't.
Okay.
If the link's there, I can pull it up while we're in the background with no sound and watch.
Yes,
done it this morning.
The link is there. In terms of my overall thoughts, I really like that they went with the pop bumper for the left slingshot. I
liked the concept from the beginning.
It makes it very unique. It is clearly more dangerous over by that pop, as it should be, than the sling, which, while somewhat randomizing, is not nearly as unpredictable. So it seemed to get a lot of good play. The horseshoe shot seems pretty good in terms of, I didn't think doesn't look like it's a hard shot, but it didn't seem Silver Ball Mania easy. It also fires back pretty quick when it's not functioning as a ball lock, which I like. The scoop seemed like another relatively simple shot. I think it's placed well. It fires out fairly quick. So I thought that was pretty good. The only geometric concerns that I have, and again, it's a short video, there were a lot of struggles to hit those two upper flipper shots.
Right.
The inner, more top part of the flipper orbit around seems like it trickled back out a lot due to a lack of momentum. So even when it was cleanly hit, it wasn't hit with enough force, which again, I worry about. Like if it was on location, if the flipper's a little mushy, does that become an impossible shot sort of thing?
And I can see that.
And the second orbit, I can't even recall. I watched the whole video, but I don't remember if anyone hit that lower upper flipper orbit at all.
Not that I've seen yet. But man, is that left bumper is even more awesome than.
So overall, it looks fairly challenging. The middle shots seem to be the safe shots, actually. And it's the pop bumper that seems to put you in a lot of danger. Also, if you end up bricking on your ramp shots and such.
Yeah.
The ramps themselves seemed fine. They seemed like they were decent. Not overly hard, not overly easy shots. I think there's an instance in the video where trying to lock in the garage, they fired through the right orbit to feed up in that, and the ball had either it didn't have enough momentum or it had too much and didn't go into the garage. I think it didn't have it. I think Charlie said that it didn't have enough momentum, which makes sense. Most of the time they hit that shot though, so I don't think that orbit was a problem. So really, other than the use of the upper flipper, I liked what I saw.
Yeah,
I didn't see enough to judge the upper flipper, but I guess if I were to say if I have concerns, it would be that flipper is my concern currently. The modes, they showed a little bit of the modes, and I think that the way Eric Prepke has programmed it makes it pretty clear for you to know what you're supposed to be shooting for. So he was explaining it too. It's like, oh, you need to go for the purple shots now. It's like, what? I think it was Charlie playing. He's like, what are those? What should I be shooting? And I just, one of the other people there was like, shoot the purple stuff. And it was actually the pop and the sling were purple. So he was probably looking at inserts, and instead they were glowing purple because that was the goal right then, was to actually shoot into that pop bumper. Just kind of, again, like how TNA would occasionally have you shoot into the pop bumper, which was always very scary.
Yeah.
But you know what we say.
No, I do.
No risk, no reward.
I really like this whole single dangerous pop.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Is that going to be this Denisi calling card?
I hope so.
One pop games, and the pops will be dangerous. Yeah, I think it was good. I'm glad that it looks as fun as it was.
We've talked many times on here about not liking the super safe triple pop.
It's such a
standard drop in.
It's such a deviation from what they were historically.
Right.
I mean, to someone like Harry Williams, he always wanted the ball is wild. It can't be wild if it's safe. I don't care how much action you get. So, for example, Stern Star Trek. Those pop bumpers see a lot of play, but there's no danger from them.
Not at all.
It's a super safe pop nest. So while I appreciate that you get a lot of action out of them versus like Stern Star Wars, where I feel like asking, why'd you even put them in? Because it doesn't seem like you're in them ever. There's no danger. Now, I don't want cheese danger either, like Avatar or Data East Jurassic Park, where the ball kind of just falls out, or Walking Dead even, where the ball, if you don't have it, it just sort of falls right down the middle.
Right.
In a glide, because of that's the feed. It wasn't like TNA where the pop bumper is like going down the middle because I'm making you go down the middle.
Right. No, that's just because it feeds out poorly.
Yes, yeah. It's just because of how the ball departs from the nest, which I don't care for that, but yeah, it's just so. Anyway, I thought we should note it now that give the link out because there's finally some gameplay, and I guess they were on the.
It's really weird to watch it at 2 times speed because that's what I've got it playing over here is at 2 times speed.
It's not that dangerous. It's not that aggressive.
That aggressive. But at 2 times speed, when the ball hits that left pop bumper, it just vanishes from the screen at 2 times speed.
Yeah.
It's just gone. I don't even see it. It's gone.
And they do have it set, so at least as long as it's activated, I don't know if it's always active or not, but they had it happen a few times. If the pop bumper sends the ball straight down the middle, immediately into the trough, it gives you the ball back. But if there's even a little bit of a delay, it does not.
Yeah.
So they didn't want it, or at least there are certain instances where you can set it up so that it does not cheat you with a straight down the middle, but because the sling won't sling straight down the middle. But
right.
That pop bumper can. So, but still, I think it was smart. I like that deviation from the standardized lower layout is a welcome breath of fresh air to me. I know other people that don't like that. They want it standardized. They want Italian. I mean, this is still Italian, but they want an Italian bottom. They want a standardized lower layout. They want that all predictable. In fact, Steve Ritchie relies upon that. That's why he always keeps the same exact lower structure.
Right.
Because he wants it to be comfortable for people. Scott doesn't want you to be comfortable. Scott wants you to be afraid.
Fear.
Yeah, that's right.
Fear's the mind killer.
It's a little death.
So that would be a good pinball machine. And
hey, with the new
movie coming eventually, it might happen.
Maybe we can finally have Shai Hulud multi-ball.
Shai Hulud. Of course, we almost got it already. Have it already in Sword of Rage.
Yeah, sorry. Yes, I do. I do always call it the sandworm Shai Hulud when it comes out.
It's Shai Hulud.
So that's really all I had for news in pinball. As such, since I knew it would be fairly light, I actually have loaded up 20 questions.
No!
Yeah, you didn't see it in the notes. It's a surprise. You have not played 20 questions since episode 101.
Gosh.
We last did it with Nick on episode 103. But you've had a lull. You've had an LOL lull. So we're going to end your lull. So for those that don't know how this works, because it has been quite a while, Tony will ask me a series of yes or no questions. It will be about a flipper pinball machine that I know he has played at least one ball on. I have to be very specific now. And after question 15, if he still does not have it, he may turn to online resources to help ask the remaining 5 questions. And that's pretty much it. Those are the rules.
No,
so don't,
you monster!
Don't fear, Tony.
Yep. Hold on. Let me close out my video and move around and get my notes ready.
If you want, there's a notepad right behind you. If you want to do it on paper, so you don't have to reach around your microphone cord. Because for those you can't see, I got pens and paper right there. For those that can't see, which would be all of you because you're listening online, Tony has to have a booster seat for his microphone. So his microphone is way up high, and it's kind of interfering with his access to the computer because he has to make enough space for the booster seat. Plus, keeping the computer away from the microphone, there's a little pro tip, helps with preventing picking up the sounds of the fan from the computer into the background of your audio, which is stinky. We don't like that.
There were complaints because I sounded like I was in the bathroom.
Yeah, it's a little echoey because I had the gain so high so that you didn't have to have the microphone in your face, that the sound was bouncing off of the door behind you.
Because there's a glass door right behind me.
Because we're in my kitchen, so that's where we record. This is a kitchen table talk.
Yep. So, welcome to Kitchen Talk.
Yep. All right.
I'm thinking I'm going to make a nice tikka masala. Not actually.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got most of the stuff to do it. I just haven't had a chance to do it yet.
But someday you'll be able to.
Soon.
All right, you can start whenever you're ready.
Trying to remember, I had a pattern of questions that was working real well for me, and I'm trying to remember them because it's been months and I've been free. I mean, okay, let's go with, is it from 1980 to 1989, including 1989?
No.
Is it from 1990 or newer?
Yes.
Is it from 90 to 97?
Yes.
Thinking. Because I could play the safe route, which is just getting dates until I get it down to about the right date, but I don't have the date memorizations as solid as you. So I'm trying to think if it'd be better to go with, is it a premiere?
No.
Is it a licensed theme?
Yes. That's question 5.
Is it Addams Family?
No.
That game was just sticking in my head from like question 3.
It falls under everything you asked, so it was a very legitimate guess.
Is it from 95 to 97?
No.
Is it T2?
No.
Swinging wide. I need to narrow the gap down more before I... Is it a Data East?
No.
Is it a Sega?
No. That's question 10.
Is it going to piss me off when I... That's not an
Who knows?
question.
Who knows?
Is it The Shadow?
Yes. It is The Shadow. It's question 11.
Thanks for the hint.
What hit? Who knows what hint?
Lurks in the hearts of men.
I was hoping you didn't pick up on that, but there's always a risk, I suppose. Yes, The Shadow. November of 94 was when it came out. It's a Bally-branded WMS game. Obviously based off of the not-so-hit movie with Alec Baldwin.
Yeah. It was one of the movies that had crossed my mind.
Mm-hmm. And you don't get to play it a ton, but you have played it several times.
Several times. It's an enjoyable game.
Right.
Other than... you know what? I'm not a fan of that whole upper playfield thing.
Oh, yeah. With the it's like Breakout,
batter ball, Arkanoid type thing.
The ball breaker, yeah.
Yeah. It's okay. It's better than some upper playfields that I've played on games, but it ain't great.
Yeah. Well, it was Brian Eddy's first layout design, so.
Yeah, and it's got... I like the diverters. I like the little shadowy ball lock. All good stuff. It's an enjoyable game.
Yeah.
It would fit well in the Brian Eddy corner.
It would. A corner that has 4 games. Unless you're counting games you programmed, and then you can get more in, like Black Rose.
Right. As of now, the Brian Eddy corner has nothing.
Yes.
And it probably won't ever have anything but nothing.
I don't know.
But it's a humorous idea.
Who knows? Maybe Chicago Gaming will remake Shadow. They've remade all the other Brian Eddy stuff.
I think that one might be a little harder.
I think it doesn't sell for enough for it to be worth it.
Right.
Because I think that game, maybe it's crept up to the $4,000. I don't price Shadows out much. It used to be around $3,500. It's probably closer to $4 nowadays. It would be my guess without looking. But
I mean, I think
blind guess. I wouldn't pay $4 for it. But.
No, I mean that's the thing is, and even they're even putting those games in of the games you just listed. I'd rather have a Black Rose personally because that's a rather fun game.
Yep,
but
I've lost on Black Rose when I was in SCS. After I was eliminated from being able to move on, but when I was fighting for the ability to be 9th through 16th,
right,
that was my one loss. Was against Gordon on Black Rose, a game he loves, and
a man of good taste.
Yes. So I ended up taking, what did I get that year? Like 11th or something, I think. It wasn't bad for me, but especially when I went in the 15th seed. But
right.
But still. Curse that Black Rose. So speaking of curses, I think you have some not so optimistic stuff to cover in the video game segment. So we can get going with that.
We're going to jump over to video games. I'm going to do this in a slightly different order than it's in the notes.
Okay.
Just because I want to do the follow-up stuff from our last episode. Remember last episode we talked about the coronavirus and the Overwatch League having so many games in China.
Yep.
And a few days after our last episode came out, they did announce that all of the in-China games in February and March have been canceled.
Mm-hmm.
They have not announced when they are going to be moved to or when they're going to be played. That's to be announced in the future. But for now, they've all been canceled. So that's going to reduce the number of Overwatch to be watched for the next several weeks.
Yes.
Like 5 of the first 7 weeks, if I remember right.
I mean, so are they not... Their hope is to try and do those later in the years.
That's
thinking,
what it's
versus
sounding like.
Saying, okay, well, you don't get to have your home games. We're going to host them remote.
They might host them remote later in the year, but right now it sounds like their hope is to host them in China later in the year.
Well, there's a huge audience in China that's really into Overwatch. They have some of the most passionate teams team fans, so I could see why they definitely want to do it when they can.
All of the Chinese home stands sold out quickly when they went active.
Yeah.
Now, 2 of the Chinese teams for sure, the Dragons and the Charge, are not currently in China. They have moved to South Korea.
Okay.
For
safety
reasons. The Hunters are specifically staying in China, but they're working under very specific protective things that they're using.
And they're in Chengdu.
And I haven't heard about the Spark. I couldn't find anything on the Spark.
I think I saw about Spark giving refunds to those that had bought their homestand tickets.
Right. But
that's all I've seen.
Yeah, but I haven't seen anything from the team.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't either.
So, we'll see. But Overwatch League has started.
Yep, yesterday.
We watched most but not all of it yesterday.
Yep. The New York homestand.
Yep, the New York homestand and the Dallas.
It looked well attended.
New York looked well attended. Dallas seemed pretty well attended. It was harder to tell.
Dallas, I think, was a bigger facility.
I mean, that could be it. Because it seemed like Dallas had a lot more areas that were far enough back from the crowd shots on the camera. I couldn't tell if there was a lot of people back there or a few people because it was kind of dark.
Yes.
But, yeah, they seemed well attended, which isn't a surprise.
The production?
The production.
I almost sent you a video this morning of one where they superimposed and it was showing I don't know what movie it was from, but basically a woman like in a habit, a nun habit, but her face was the London Spitfire logo, and then behind her was another woman in like a black habit with the NYXL logo, and the one in the white is holding up a lantern, and she's like, hello, and then I guess it's from a horror movie, but a Cheez-Its Groove Box, that's how it gets her.
Oh yeah, it's just, oh man, their production, I don't know if they're rusty because the league's been gone for
months and months and months.
6-7 months.
Yeah.
Or if they're letting all of the other people, they've released everybody else. Maybe they released all the production staff and they're training all new production staff. But yeah, the production was terrible.
Yeah. And my Cheez-Its, for those that most of you won't know, what happened was Cheez-Its is a big sponsor currently, and that's fine, but they actually were running the ads with the games going, and you could hear the game audio, but you can't see anything because it's showing you a box of Cheez-Its. There was an instance on the King's Row map between London and New York, which was the highlight game of the NYXL Homestead, because London is a former, well, not with the current players, but is a former world champion team. New York is seen as being in the top 4 every year.
And there's a solid rivalry between the two.
Yes. And there was a minute where you couldn't see anything because the Cheez-Its box was on the screen, full screen. Couldn't see anything.
And they did the same thing during between match commentaries at one point when they were talking, when the desk was talking and showing clips.
Yep.
It was just the Cheez-It box on the screen the whole time while they're talking. And
so there's that. There was some more understandable but sluggish, bad swapping from viewpoints where all of a sudden you'd be looking like out a Symmetra turret or there'd be a delay and they'd switch to someone coming back from spawn instead of someone who was in the fight. You would have instances. Apparently the commentator desk is now just in LA.
Yes.
And the green screen is not that good.
Here's the thing. What do they need a green screen for?
I think they're trying to still look like the Blizzard Arena.
They could just put normal stuff up and just have a normal desk.
A set. They could do a little set.
Have a set and leave it up and it'd be fine.
Nope, green screen. That's how NA production.
It did
NA
not
production.
Look good.
NA is for North American because in the world of Overwatch, the North American stuff is always the worst.
It is. It is.
It makes us look bad.
I do not understand some of the choices that have been made. Not just the Cheez-It Groove, also the Coca-Cola victory moment that as soon as a match ended, they just would cover the screen with Coca-Cola victory moment.
And you don't see a moment.
So you don't see a moment. They don't show a moment. It's just
Yeah.
a giant thing that says, "Here's the Coca-Cola victory moment." And then then the commentators are talking about other stuff. They're not talking about a gameplay. You're not showing you a clip of gameplay. It's just like, oh, we didn't get to watch the players shake hands because it's the victory moment. I mean, it was horrible.
Yeah. The only thing I will say that I have appreciated, and I don't know if this, I assume this is because they shifted over to YouTube, but I'm not inundated with ads at every single break. And that's been nice.
That's been very nice.
I'd rather just have the timer up and not have to constantly hear, because they got their Overwatch ads, but then we were always getting hit with the regular Twitch ads. And like, get the Terminator 2 skin. Well, yeah, you were in the command center.
Because I paid for the command center.
But I didn't, so I always had to get the Terminator 2 skin for Gears of War 5. No, I don't have Gears of War 5.
Right.
Gears 5, excuse me. I do now, but I didn't then. I didn't need no Terminator skin.
If you'd gotten it, you'd have it. And if you had
They probably made more money off those Terminator skins than they did off of that new Terminator movie.
Probably.
That's what they say. Worst performing Terminator movie ever. Even though I've heard that is not the worst Terminator movie.
That's what I've heard. I've heard it is much better.
Maybe I'll see it.
Genesis.
I could not get through 15 minutes of Genesis. I looked away and then became confused. And then I read about it and it was like, yes, apparently you can't ever look away on Genesis because you'll miss all the hops of what's going on.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, well, I don't want to think on a Terminator movie. What do you think this is, The Godfather? You've got to be kidding me.
Yeah, it's bad.
So.
But it's interesting you brought up, wow, I probably blew that out with that really loud butt.
Maybe. It is pretty strong in my waveform.
Real strong spike right there. It's funny that you brought up Gears, because the announcement was made that Rod Ferguson, studio head for the Gears of War franchise, has left.
Yes.
He has joined Blizzard to take over the Diablo franchise.
Wow. He probably should have taken over the Warcraft 3 Reforged franchise.
Probably should.
But
well,
okay. Well, he's
only known as a fixer. You hit a certain point, even a fixer can't make it better.
So do you construe his involvement with Diablo as a good sign or a bad sign?
I see it as a good sign. He's been well regarded for the work he's done in the past, because he was known as the person who brought BioShock Infinite out of its development hell and got it released.
Okay, and yeah, that ended up pretty good.
And
I enjoyed that game.
He was deeply involved with Gears and all good games. Like Gears 5, he was the head guy for Gears 5. And I think it's a good thing. I think it shows that Activision Blizzard has concerns.
So they don't want to screw it up.
I don't think they can afford to screw it. They've burned decades worth of Blizzard goodwill. It's gone.
Well, but a lot of people felt this was going to be inevitable once Activision got them.
And they were right. Once Activision got them, and enough of the old cadre was gone.
It has felt to me, perhaps I'm wrong, I'm often am, but it has felt to me like Activision over the last year really looked at EA and said, we're the number one publisher in the world of video games. Why are we losing to EA on the hate wagon? We should be the most hated, not them. So what can we do? They're really screwing up Star Wars, so we gotta go big or go home. And they went big.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, EA, very successful on that latest Star Wars, beat their expectations.
Yeah.
Like over 2 million copies sold.
It's very popular. It's
well reviewed. It almost will now assuredly get a sequel.
Yeah.
Given the success that it had. And it was a case of, hey, look, you gave people a single-player story. What they wanted in Star Wars was a single-player story. I mean, Battlefront's fun, but other than that, most of their projects have been disasters.
Well, and I'm sure there are execs at EA who are sitting there, but how did that game make money? How did people like
How did we do
game?
It without a loot crate?
It doesn't have loot crates. It's not multiplayer. Why would people play that game? Loot crate. I mean, see, that's not Their model is loot crates, and then find a reason for people to buy loot crates.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, that's literally what their
that
model
is
has
what they have
become.
relied upon for years now, and I guess they kind of lost their way. That's why people were looking to people like Bethesda for single player experiences, and then Bethesda Fallout 76 is us because they want to get on the same bandwagon of having a living game. And there's a place for living games like Overwatch, but not every game should be that.
Right. You need to have, I mean, I can understand them wanting to have a game like that, just have continuous funding rolling in.
Right.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Every game doesn't have to be that. You need one game that can do it. Fallout 76 is not that game.
Yeah. So, but back to Blizzard. I took us on a little tangent, but it was all related to the hate that Activision Blizzard now feels. So tell us about some more of the hate, Tony, because as you crack your knuckles with glee, because you may hate pinball drama almost as much as I do, but you relish this video game stuff.
Warcraft 3 Reforged was announced at BlizzCon 2018.
Yes.
They had that beautifully done cinematic.
Yep, I remember. It was really epic looking. I've not played Warcraft 3, by the way.
You've never played Warcraft?
No.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Only 1 and 2.
They had this beautiful cinematic, looked lovely, and it was one of their big announcements. It was the same time they announced WoW Classic.
Yep.
That they were going to put out Warcraft 3 Reforged, taking the most popular of the Warcraft games and modernizing it and making it look better and doing some UI fixes and just making it this whole new visual appeal while keeping the story and everything that people love about that. Since it's Activision Blizzard as opposed to Blizzard, they had this grandiose idea, and then they put a stake in its heart.
No, vampire,
and buried it at the crossroads.
Mm.
It is an enormous embarrassment. It crashed and burned so hard. The big things that people were talking about: UI improvements, just better graphics, the new cinematics. Well, the UI's not improved. A lot of people think it's worse.
Wow.
The cinematics aren't there at all.
Real.
That
should have been the easy stuff.
The cinematics they have are basically lightly upgraded versions of the original cinematics because, according to them, they didn't want to change the feel of the game. So the huge cinematic upgrade, which is what lots of people were looking forward to and thought would be cool, they got rid of. It's not happening. It's just gone.
Okay.
They created a whole new back end to connect for the internet play.
All right. Makes sense.
That back end also applies to people who own the original Warcraft 3.
Makes less sense.
That back end doesn't work.
Makes no sense.
A lot of the stuff that has been available for Warcraft 3 for years, stuff for running tournaments, stuff for clans, stuff for allowing you to do custom campaigns, it's either gone or not working.
But we can still play like at a LAN party.
No. Because there is no offline play now. There's no LAN play. There's no offline play. You have to be able to contact the server. And Warcraft 3, one of the big things people loved about Warcraft 3 is it had a very robust game editor that lets you do a lot to it. That's where Dota came from.
Yes, right.
Dota was a mod that was created using that engine.
And back in the day when I mentioned I had played the first 2 Warcrafts, I used to use Warcraft 2's game editor and make custom campaign games for us to play against hardest tuned AI systems. That was my thing.
Yeah.
So, how's that work now?
Well, it's still there.
Oh, good.
But anything you do on it is owned by Blizzard. and they can delete it or keep it or sell it or make money off of it or do whatever they want to it. This is their response to the Dota problem.
That's right, because Dota isn't theirs.
Dota's not theirs because the people who did Dota in the game engine for Warcraft 3 were hired by Valve, and they made Dota 2 completely separate.
Right.
That's why...
And Blizzard has their own knockoff version that they had to come out with later.
Right. Which is Heroes of the
Storm, yeah.
Yeah. Which, guess what, isn't as popular as Dota 2 or League of Legends.
You're right. Nope. It's the distant third.
Yeah. So, it has just turned into this giant mess. They have said that they are releasing patches, and there are patches on the way. The first patch coming out is over 2 gig. That's supposed to repair some of the stuff. It's supposed to give back clan support. And some of those things that have been in for years and is gone. But a lot of the other stuff is still, who knows?
Why'd it come out like this?
Because, honestly, they rushed it out.
That they needed to? Or what? I think
the fact that it was an 18...
it's like a remaster, so that's what confuses me.
Right.
I don't understand how you screw up a remaster.
I mean, the game is buggy. It's got video hitches. It crashes. You cannot load into custom campaigns from any of the normal loading screens. There's a way to do it, but you have to do some really wonky, go into the game editor and launch into it type stuff. It wasn't play tested enough. That's what most of this is it wasn't play tested enough, and I don't think they know what the people wanted. And the problem is they destroyed people who were playing Warcraft 3 still, which was a still fairly popular game, because they destroyed Warcraft 3's back end and put it on top of this one.
Right.
So they stepped in it. They fell in the mud. It is one of those things that has been an issue. We've talked in the past multiple times about this new thing that's apparently so popular of review bombing games.
Yes.
On Metacritic, Warcraft 3 Reforged is the lowest ranked game of all time. Its current ranking is 0.5.
But in this case, do you think that this sort of review bombing is fair because it is about the game? Whereas a lot of times when we've talked about review bombing, it was, I don't like that you put it on the Epic Store, so I'm going to say your game is bad.
Right.
Whereas it does, to me, from what you've summarized, sound like Warcraft 3 Reforged is just bad. It is bad.
It is just
and you
bad.
Don't want to give it a good review if it's bad.
Right. And I think in this case, the review bombing would be considered fair.
Okay.
I'm not against it. Because, again, it's not like, I'm review bombing you because you're on the Epic Game Store, or I'm review bombing you because
I
don't
are
like your politics,
lies.
or I'm review bombing you because...
Because that's disingenuous.
Right.
If you're saying that the review is about the game and you disagree with its person or how it was released, but that's not about the game to me.
Right.
But this,
and I agree with you.
All of the stuff you've highlighted is about, you didn't say anything here about like how it was launched and complained about how, they put it out on Battle.net and I didn't like that. You didn't mention that.
Right. No. And in their defense, I have a hard time saying it. I think it's because it's the only good way to do it is that they have announced that they are changing their normal requirements for getting refunds.
Yes, I read that as well.
Because normally with their requirements for getting a refund is it's time locked based upon how much time you've played the game and when your first time on the game was. If you've put too much time on the game, they won't issue a refund. If you've done, if it's been too long since you installed the game, you don't get a refund.
Right.
Stuff like that. They have changed that, and they are making it official that you can get refunds for this game, just period. A lot of people pre-ordered because how could they screw up a remaster of what was already a great game?
Right.
But it's back again to a conversation we've had many a time. Don't pre-order games.
Yep.
I mean, don't pre-order video games. Really, do not pre-order a pinball machine. I mean, it's going to happen. That's the only way to get a new machine from Spooky. But it's just a bad idea because you don't know what you're getting.
Yeah, it's tough, but it shouldn't be tough on the video game side.
It shouldn't be, but
because there's no false scarcity on this
right.
stuff.
And you can get when it comes out, and the reviews on the game and the player copies and reviewers tend to be out a couple of days before the game, so you should be able to still get the game on launch day if you want. But I don't know.
Well, we'll keep an eye on this to feed off of this drama like little baby sharks.
Baby shark.
No.
No. Okay.
I was thinking of it, but no.
No, you would die. Baby shark, baby shark, I am the ocean. I am Daddy Shark. Oh, Daddy Shark.
Oh, God. Daddy Shark, you're breaking my heart.
Once more, the fins will rule the ocean.
That's a good spot. I think we're good there.
Okay. Well, if you need to reach out to know the continuation of the Baby Shark saga, you can email us to eclecticgamerspodcast@gmail.com, or you can contact us facebook.com/eclecticgamerspodcast.
We're available on Instagram, Twitter, and Twitch as eclectic_gamers.
And we should be back in a couple of weeks.
2 weeks.
Yep. Until then, my name is Dennis.
I am Tony.
And we will say goodbye for now.
Peace.